Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am so beyond crazy excited about my guest today, Sage Polaris. She is probably one of my favorite people in the world. And by the time this is done, she's going to be one of your favorite people. Sage Polaris has written high converting copy for more than 475 plus clients, earning them millions of dollars. She helps personal brands and service providers sell more of their service or offer with the words on their website. Her emails and sales pages are responsible for generating as much as 7 figures in a single launch. She has worked with Chalene Johnson, Chrisette Michelle, Rick Mulready, and Lynn Twist. Basically, she makes money for the internet famous people we all look up to, and in turn has been an international speaker in exclusive private masterminds. She can show your audience how to go from storytelling to story selling. Oh, I like that. This is what truly makes a brand legendary. And today, she'll tell you exactly how to do that in your own businesses. Okay, so without further ado, let's say hello to Sage.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Iris, for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so excited you're here. And you're just so awesome. And your energy is just so good and comforting and comfortable. And I love every time we interact.
Same, Iris. I'm so excited and I'm grateful for this opportunity because I feel like we both are doing some really cool work and now we get to share a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So tell us about Sage.
I love that. So, hi, if we haven't met before, I'm Sage Polaris. I am a launch strategist and copywriter to the stars. If you're on the same marketing planet as me, you know what that means. But if you haven't heard of copywriting, it's nothing to do with legal. It's specifically about the words on your website to help you sell more of your service or product. I'm grateful to say I'm 11 years deep into this business, which is wild. And my clients, as Iris have mentioned, they've done upwards of 1.25 million in a single launch, which still humbles me to say, and it's wild to think about. But I love supporting online business owners, particularly people who know about the online space, but maybe they're a service-based business and they want to get into more of selling their online products. You know, if you have a group program or a mastermind or even private client work that you want to sell more of through VIP days, those are all areas where I support my clients.
Awesome. So, yes, I know that you craft, market, and fill VIP days, and we'll get into that. But what was your journey to entrepreneurship? How did you get started?
Yeah, so
always, this awesomeness that you are.
I mean, I think it's an evolution for everyone, but particularly for me, you can kind of draw the line for why I've been in business as long as I have, because I have an 11-year-old son and my business is 11 years. So I started my business, I was working for all the major museums in LA, which is kind of completely zigging and zagging from 2 different areas, but they're all related to me, and I'll explain a little bit more why. But basically, I was working for MoCA, LACMA, Hammer, all the well-known museums here. I was installing art for them. And by day, I was doing that. And by night, I started to play around with travel blogging. So I was writing about my travels. I got some award-winning work done in that space. And then I picked up a book called The Well-Fed Writer by Peter Bowerman. And that book changed everything for me because he talks about being able to be a copywriter and how you can get clients and how easy it is to get clients, particularly locally. So I started working with local online business owners, going to networking events. I was really falling in love with having a copywriting business. And then I got called back actually to work on a major project for the California Science Center. We had won the Endeavor shuttle, which was the last aircraft or spacecraft to go to on a mission with Mark Kelly. It was a very iconic time in American history.
Yeah.
I met the astronauts, and then I had my child. I was on maternity leave, and they had asked me if I would come back. And so there was this very specific moment where I was in my city and I was standing on top of a parking garage, which is near the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. And I was watching this Endeavour shuttle on the back of a 747. It did 3 circles over the city as a way to celebrate that we had won that project. And I had my son in the carrier, and I was looking up at the jet, and I was like, I'm not going to go back. I don't want to do this project anymore. So I gave my 2 weeks notice, not knowing that I was going to be the type to just really fall in love with being home with my son, and decided to dive in headfirst into the copywriting business. Honestly, if I had been a bit more strategic about it, I would have slowly turned down the dial on that job and not just outright quit like that. But I had a lot of confidence early on, for no good reason, really, but just was like, I can make this work. And the earning ceiling was at a certain level, right? Working for the museum industry. And it was a very male-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. So there were moments during that career, not particularly at the Science Center, at one of the museums that will remain unnamed, where I was walking down the hallway and I saw my boss, who I had applied to work for full time. And I heard within earshot that he would never hire a woman because I would only be able to be a contractor at that museum because of him, right? There was a lot of gatekeeping, difficult things that I came up against. Not every museum was like that, so I don't want to paint a picture of all of them being horrible. I had some really great, incredible, memorable experiences doing that work. But along the way, there were a lot of red flags for me that were like, you can only go so far with this job. You can only earn so much. So with the museum work, my position at the California Science Center, I would have capped out at $36,000 if I stayed at that title. And when I started my copywriting business, I knew I could out earn that. And
$36,000
annual, revenue, totally. I shouldn't say revenue.
No. Yeah, that's
salary, right?
Wow.
Whew. So, and that's not livable anymore here in California. Things have changed. That was a while ago. It was 12 years ago. But regardless, I knew I could out earn that in a year. I knew I could. And I think within the first year I did. I think I doubled that. And then a huge marker for me that I remember was that I made that in a month in my business multiple times, right? I could make that kind of money. So for me, it was obvious why, this afforded me more time with my kids, allowed me to stay home and work from home, which I have never regretted in the last 12 years. There were hard times. There were days that were hard.
Oh, yeah.
But I never said, I wish this wasn't my life, right. Ever. And then on top of that, to be able to earn in a month what I typically could in a year. And then taking that one step further and saying okay, with this job and this work that I've created for myself, I want to help every woman in my life have the potential to out earn every man in her life because of that experience I had with that previous boss. And it's not about competition, but it is about having choices.
Right. Oh, 100%.
So so that's where I'm at. It's been an incredible ride, and It's kind of wild to say it out loud.
But I think that's so awesome that, first off, I think it's awesome that you were watching the Endeavour go around and you were like, yeah, I'm out. I mean, I just, I can just picture that. And I think that, the fact that you had that confidence doesn't surprise me because, knowing you the way I do, and I know that I don't know you as well as I'm going to, you know what I mean? I know that there's more layers there to learn. And so just knowing what I know, I'm not even surprised by that at all. But I love that there was that moment that you overheard that, because imagine if you didn't overhear that. right? Like,
Right.
what would you have stayed not knowing, right? Like, would you have stayed thinking, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to have a shot to move up? Or, was that the impetus or the catalyst to make you just be like,
Yeah, it was one of many tipping points that made me realize that I'm bigger than one man's bias, and I don't want to live in that environment anymore because it's where I was spending most of my time. And excuse me, I do have a little cough. And I'm grateful now. At the time, it was hard, but now I'm grateful that that happened 100%.
oh yeah, yeah. I think that we all have like this pivotal moment, right? Where, we're working for this one person that is just like, I don't want this anymore. I don't need this anymore, and yeah, I'm better than this. I had a boss, and I'm, gonna just not say, who it was, who was just, it was weird because he had a good heart, but he was just a dick. I mean, he would just like scream at people in front of people, just do really, uncool stuff. And I remember that I was like, I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to do that. And that was one of the steps that pushed me towards, working for myself. And, the other thing was, it was scary because I've had people my whole life being like, you should open up your own business, or you should get into sales, or you should do this. And, the fact of not having a safety net of a salary used to freak me out. And then when I became an entrepreneur, it was like, okay, I can do this. And it wasn't overnight. I mean, it's been 10 years, right? So April will be, or March or whatever, will be 10 years. And it took 8 years to really kind of figure it out and be like, I know what this is. I know, who my audience is and all of that stuff. So.
Yeah, and I don't wish those experiences on any of us, but I feel like every woman has a story like that.
Yep.
And at the same time, I think entrepreneurship calls people in who, like for me, I'm not great at playing the corporate office politics game because I tend to say exactly what's on my mind. And that also it's a good thing for me, but it can also get me in trouble. So I was like, yeah, I'm good on all this. I don't want to stick somewhere that I don't feel like I can be myself. And I'm so grateful being in the online space. People always appreciate me for exactly who I am. And if they don't, they're not my client. So that's fine.
Yeah. And it's so good to be in that place that we get to say, you're not my client.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're not going to be my client. So, so what advice do you have for someone who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Ooh, well, I feel like the biggest advice I have for people is remember that when you become your own boss, that sometimes you can bring some of those old mindsets into your new position where you are unfortunately like taking on some of the bad habits and some of the good habits, I'm sure. And so just remember that you get to make your own rules, just like Iris was saying, like I get to decide who my clients are. I get to decide how much I work or how little I work. I get to decide. And in the beginning of your business, though, I will say there's an evolution to it, right? Like early on in your career or starting your own business, you tend to, and it's just like a job kind of, like you tend to give anything for it to work, right? Like you will put in the extra hours. And I think there's a time and a place for that. And then I think you get to refine based on what you've learned from being in business for yourself, right? So when I first started working, like I would go and take my laptops on vacation with me. I haven't done that for probably 9 years now because I remember there was one particular vacation. I was in Las Vegas with my husband and he was so excited to like go out and hang out and do different activities. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to finish this project And I could see he just felt so deflated when I said that. And I was like, I don't want to bring that feeling or energy to my family. So I allowed myself to do the project on vacation from the hotel room. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to always leave my laptop at home. So that's like an example where you get to make your own rules, right? But you learn from, wanting things to work so badly in the beginning.
Right. And it's so cool that you say that. I used to, and I've gotten a lot better. I'm still working on it. When we're on vacation or whatever, when we were in Hawaii, I couldn't, like, my phone didn't ring. I think I called Kofi once and he was like, why are you calling me? And I was like, well, I'm sitting in a traffic jam and there's something that we need to take care of for, one of the clients. And he's like, you're in Hawaii. Why are you calling me? And, I was like, I know. But I was like, literally the ocean was here. The mountains were there. There was a line of traffic. What was I doing at that point? Right. So there were worse things to go through and worse places to be than a traffic jam in Hawaii. So I was okay. But, when we go on vacation, I'll check my email on my phone. I don't even need my laptop because you could do everything from your damn phone now, right? So the phone rings and
it's tricky.
I know, and I've gotten much better at not answering it. It's hard.
Nice.
It's hard because to me, it's like if my phone is ringing, it's either a problem or it's money. And I don't want to, if it's a problem, I want it handled. And if it's money, I don't necessarily, want to put it off. So I'm working on getting myself out of that mindset and that it will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely the thing though, about making your own rules in business. Like you can set up your rules and then give yourself grace if you decide to break your own rule. That's okay. A perfect example of that is that I, every year for the 9th year in a row, am taking 4 months off in my business. And this last year, one example I can think of is like the last week of September, and we're in November right now. Y'all are listening to this in the future, but that's the time of year it is. Anyways, I had someone listen, or in my business that was with my team for 3 years, and she was transitioning out of the position kind of unexpectedly. And that 1 week where I was taking time off, we actually had to transition a new person to replace her role. And she's like my right-hand woman, online business manager. And so I was like, listen, I know, and she apologized. She's like, I'm so sorry to do this on your week off, but I got this incredible opportunity that I can't turn down. And I was like, listen, that's going to happen sometimes. Like, I'm not perfect at anything. But the point of this is, and for anyone who's listening, is like, if you do want to take time off, go ahead and mark it off on your calendar. That, for you, it may not be a week off, but even just like government holidays, days kids are home from the school, if you're a mom like me, your birthday. I always, it's just like, like those days, your kids' birthdays, your partner's birthdays, like you don't want to come up against that day. The worst for me is like they have this thing called minimum days, and they have pupil-free days that are not actual holidays, that the teachers are like, we're here on campus, but your kids cannot come because we're working on very specific things. And it is the worst to have a bunch of client calls stack that day and just like regretting it because I'm like, oh my goodness. And yes, I could reschedule them, but I don't love rescheduling. It's not my personality type.
Right.
So I have made it a point to get all those days a year in advance and mark them off, block my calendar. So then I'm more likely to actually take that time off. It doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect about it, but I'm more likely when you have a plan in advance to actually take that time off.
Wow. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. I mean, it's like I was looking at dates next year that I knew that, I was blocking off, and I was like kind of laughing because I'm like, am I really going to take, am I really going to do it? But I'm making the damn attempt. I was like, because I'm trying to
challenge yourself.
It is. And I love challenging myself. And for me, I'm very like, if it's not on my calendar, I'm screwed. So I had to get a meeting with some people in BNI, and, I'm like, I can send you my calendar. And they're like, yeah, because they don't get that. They're not entrepreneurs. So, what days are you available? So I sent them a list of what was available. I said, but I need an answer right away because it will get filled. Like if I don't hear from you, I'm not going to not fill it, right? So I didn't hear from them. So I had Friday available. Friday all of a sudden, was not available at certain times. And then, the next, 2 hours, it was like, whoop, Friday's gone. So let me know. And then they let me know, and I sent out an invite like right away. Yep. Because if I don't, and it doesn't get on my schedule, I'll forget about it or I'll double book. Oh my God. So in September, I double booked. Actually, I triple booked because I put it in one calendar. The thing on my phone, I don't know what it did, but it like unclicked that calendar. So it didn't show. So I'm like, oh yeah, I have time. So I, put the time in. And then when all of the calendars came up, I was like, oh shit. I had like 3 things at the same time on 3 different calendars. And I was like, no. So I had to like reschedule a couple of things because it happens. And now I make sure that I check every time I'm, it's like my business calendar, that it's on my business calendar. So, okay, well, let's talk about the crafting, marketing, and filling your VIP days, because I know we actually have to time this right, which makes me sad because we usually just, go over. But let's talk about that, and then I'll ask you probably a couple of other questions. But yeah, so how do people work with you, and how does that work?
So this is a major reason why I'm able to take 4 months off for the 9th year in a row. Is early on in my business as a copywriter, I would do like more so full-on projects where I wouldn't just work in a VIP day format. So typically a project would take me 3 meetings and 2 revisions. And I was serving about 19 clients a year doing that, and that would max me out. Like I wouldn't have any more space left to give on my calendar. And so therefore, again, like I was kind of capping myself at what I could earn unless I raised my prices, which I did. And then I realized like, okay, I want more time off. And so I did a couple of things. I worked with a project manager to help me formulate what my time off was going to look like, because I don't take 4 months off in a row, right? So I had this terrible idea.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So I had this terrible idea of like, I'll take every other Friday off, because I was already doing fun Fridays where I would be like optional inbox, optional work day. And I was like, I want to take every other Friday off and like block it off on my calendar. And she's like, that's a terrible idea. Why don't you just take the last week of the month off entirely? And so that's accumulates to 3 months. And then I take sometimes the last 2 weeks of November and December off, which I'm getting ready to do this year. Sometimes I'll take an entire month off. I think one year I took the entire of August off. The pandemic year, I took 6 months off. I took really big blocks of time off because I was so obligated to my household, and my husband was an essential worker. So that really changed things for me. But during the time when I started to take the 4 months off for the first year, I started using more of a VIP day format, where instead of like 3 meetings, that would take us a couple weeks to complete, because it'd be like 1 hour and then another hour, I started consolidating to VIP days, where it was like, you can work with me in a 3-hour block or a 6-hour block, either a half day or a full day, and serve them in a way that allowed me to not have to spread out the meetings so far. We would get things done in batches. And so it changed my packages a little bit, like the types of clients I would serve, the types of projects that I would do. It couldn't be ongoing projects. It had to be things that we could pre-plan for. So if a client had a launch and they wanted a stack of emails done, we could get that done in a half day. If they wanted emails and a sales page, we could get that done in a full day. And it really changed the game for my calendar, because for my VIP days, I only have like 2 or 3 days that are needed for that on my calendar, which gives me so much more white space and ability to do other things. And it's just been incredible to like make that shift into a VIP day format. And they love it, because a lot of my clients are the type who they have enough on their calendar already. They don't want additional meetings either.
Right.
So it really created space for both me and them. And it doesn't mean I don't support them. Like leading up to the VIP day, there's the intake process, and then there's the actual day. And then there's follow-up of me, like maybe making pre-recorded videos, reviewing the live web page after I gave them the copy. So there are little things that are needed, but there's no more meeting time. And that makes a big difference in my calendar.
And probably for the client's calendar too, right? Because, you know, 100%. That frees up time for them. I mean, that's huge. Yep. I know so many people that I work with are like, you know, do we have to meet? I'm like, no, thank God for, you know, Loom. It's like, here you go. I'll just, you know, here's my screen. If you have any questions, you know, you can sponsor me if you want, feel free. But you know, it's so, and I didn't look at it that way. When you said like 4 months off, I'm thinking like, oh my God, I literally just got their receipt. How fucked up is that? Like, I just got a little notification that said, thank you for your payment to Loom for the month. You're welcome.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
That was just messed up.
The internet overlords are watching.
Ooh, they're listening. They're totally listening. Yeah, so when you said 4 months off in my brain, I'm like, oh, she took like 4 months off. Like, how the hell do you do that? But now it makes sense to me that you take chunks of time off that equal, you know, 4 months. So that makes sense. And, you know, if I think about it, I probably take a couple of months off and I didn't even think about it because there are days that, you know, I don't work. I'm trying to spend more time with my pups because, you know, I'm in here all day long. There's a gate. And I'll text you later the picture because you're going to die. Like Piper, you know, with her face on the couch looking at me like, and I'm just like, really? Like, I don't have enough. Thank you. You know, so I make sure that I take half-hour blocks to spend with them.
Oh, I love that.
They're my kids, you know, and for the past like year, they've been on the other side of this gate looking at me wanting to play. And I've been like so focused on what I'm doing. And then finally, last week, actually, we were in, well, now it's whatever, but in the beginning of October, we were in West Virginia or November, whenever, a couple of weeks ago. And I was missing them. And I was like, but what do I do with them? What do I do? They're on the other side of the gate. That's not fair to them. That's not building a relationship with them. That's not, you know, so I made up my mind that when I get home, I'm making the time. And that's what I've been doing. Like pretty much every like 3 hours, I take a half hour and I go out and I play with them. And then I come back in and do stuff, but at least they feel like there's interaction instead of them just, you know, sitting there until Heather gets home at 7:00. And then I come out of the hole. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, there she is. But the only time she comes out is when mommy comes home. So what kind of messages that send? And maybe I'm thinking, you know, I'm overthinking it, you know, because people will be like, they're dogs. They have feelings too. Like they know. So I hope that, you know, they know that I'm making an effort to be a better mom. But
I love that. Also, it's a great reminder that like with our time off, it doesn't have to be any grandiose, like big vacations. And it's interesting how you adjust in terms of like thinking about your free time, right? Because when you have a job, your free time is most likely going to be vacation. Like you take blocks of time to go on vacation, but that's really not as much as that is so good for you. And I highly recommend that you take trips or you even do a staycation in your own neighborhood. There's times where I'm here, but I go stay in an Airbnb because the change of environment is so good for me.
Oh, wow.
Particularly during COVID. Like I was doing VIP days with clients in Palm Springs, which is 2 hours away. We were allowed to travel a certain mileage within our radius during COVID. And here in California, every state was different. But Palm Springs fell right within that border of how far we were technically allowed to go. Of course, you could do whatever you wanted, but there was a law about it. And I went on VIP days with my clients there, and I needed that change of environment. It was a lifeline for me
Wow.
to go, because I do in-person VIP days as well as virtual, and to be able to go and spend that time, and I wasn't really going far away. Or last week, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, was Halloween. And that week is actually really important to me. I know that might sound a little funny to people. And it wasn't about me going to celebrate, Halloween in Salem, Massachusetts. No, I was here in LA, but I wanted to go to Descanso Gardens, which is some of my favorite gardens on the planet, because they had all the Halloween stuff, and I wanted to take my kids and on a, random whatever day of the week morning and be able to go spend time with them, or with you, spending time with your fur babies. That's important. And we don't realize that we're creating just as much when we walk away from our business as when we're actually working in our business, because it gets our creative head in the clouds. It makes us think about things differently. Even last night, I was trying to make a decision about something, and I was feeling very I didn't want to make the decision. And I was like, I don't need to work on this right now. What I need to do is go walk outside for a while and spend some time with my kids and come back tomorrow with fresh eyes. And I think that's what it is, especially if your mind relies on creativity, which I'm very much working on creative campaigns for different brand personalities all the time. And it really helps me to walk away and then come back. That's how I process. I'll tell my clients, okay, I'm going to go for a walk now. I'll be back.
I love that so much. What I loved was we were on a call, and we were just, catching up and whatever. And you took me on your tea making journey. And it was just so funny, because I remember watching you, get up, take the laptop, or I think it was a laptop, and, you went into the kitchen, and then you prepared the tea. Yes. And then you were preparing you were talking about the pumpkin topping and everything. And I was just I felt where's my cup of tea? I should have been having a cup of tea with you, right? But yes, it felt so good that you felt comfortable enough to just be screw it. We're just, I'm going to make my tea. And yes, just so natural to watch you just do your thing.
Yeah.
And it was so awesome. And I told
you that you noticed that.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you picked it, you got up, you walked, you the whole thing. Cause I even said, ooh, what's in that? And then you were pumpkin, whatever. And I was oh, that sounds so good. And I told my wife that night, I said, I had one of the best calls today. And she said, was it a new client? I said, no, it was Sage. And then I explained who you were. I said, but she got up, she made herself tea. She had this and it was all it was the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're so comfortable with yourself to just be able to do that, to me, blew me away. I was that was, it made me kind of look at things a little bit differently. That you gave yourself that freedom.
I love that you picked up on all that, because I do see people sit on calls all day and not do the things that give them joy. And we have the blessing, there's nothing tethering you to your computer. And sometimes I take my phone, I specifically will take my phone to a place in Malibu, and I will charge it for the day, and I'll write copy from my phone, and I'll tell my clients, and they love that. They're like, oh, you're looking at the beach right now while you're writing my stuff. And I'm like, yep, today's I just took my phone. Or even if you can get to your local park and take some Zoom meetings there. Sometimes I do that. And every time I tell you, my clients, a potential client will applaud me. They're like, I love that you're at the park right now. I'm like, that's what I'm feeling today. So that's where you're getting me from.
Yeah. And it's so awesome. And the other thing is, here, we don't have, it's not like California. So it's not always warm here. So we don't always have that.
No.
Which, I know, makes me sad. That's okay. But in the summer, I took a couple of meetings under my covered patio, which was great because my backdrop is the woods, and it was beautiful, and it's lush and everything. And the only thing that happened was that, Demon and Monster were like, ooh, we're going to just, mom throw the ball. So I was in the middle of I had this meeting with this prospective client, and Piper jumps up with this slobby because she has like the most spitty mouth. I don't know what is up with her mouth. And she's got this nasty slobbery ball, and she'll throw it so that, I kind of throw it back to her. And it hit my camera, and then it went all over my keys, and you could see like the spit on the camera. I was like, oh, I am so sorry. And this guy signed with me. He said that was the funniest freaking thing that he has ever seen in a meeting. And I said, I really hate that, but I need to clean this shit off. It's pretty nasty. So then I went in and got paper towels and cleaned everything. But yeah, it was like so funny. And Piper was still just like, throw the ball. And I'm like, okay, fine.
Too funny.
Yeah.
It's like we're creating relatable content, but not meaning to.
Right, exactly. Right. It's like, so what was your blog post about today? Oh, my dog with her spitty ball, won me a client. Thank you. So there are, seasoned entrepreneurs that are listening, most of probably who know you, right? So what is an obstacle that you've overcome that they may be going through, or something that you might be going through now that, you have advice on?
Yeah, there's so many obstacles. What obstacles haven't I overcome, to be honest? The one I'll point to, though, that's happening right now, hold on, cough break. We're looking at a cost of living crisis or inflation crisis, depending on where you live, different ways of saying it. So it's been a really interesting year in my business, and I gave myself permission to really experiment with my offers once again. So I had a high level group program. I think it was 6 months or 8 months long that I was able to sell no problem for 5 different rounds. I filled my collective, which was a group program for business owners who wanted to essentially work less and make more, through different ways and systems and all that. So I had to pivot that this year, and I did some smaller offers because what I found worked this year is that people wanted multiple price points to working with me, whereas before they would always go for the high ticket option. It was no problem closing that. Mm-hmm. This year, because of different financial issues coming up for people, I had to give them options. So one thing that I did what I called mini mind adventure days, where they could experience my work for $5, or I think it was $600. They could come meet me in LA. We went on a boat ride. In New York, we went to the spa. In January in London, we're going to go to another spa.
Yeah, we can meet you in California and go on a boat ride. Let's go. Let's do it. I mean,
yeah, it was so fun. It was so fun. So I wanted that option for people to experience my work in person again. I ran 100-person, co-hosted 100-person event in Niagara Falls. And I realized that as fun as that was, on the surface, I got all the results I wanted. I started filling what used to be my collective that I ran for 5 rounds. We launched it for the first time from a stage. I was so happy, but holding space for 100 people was honestly too much for me.
Wow.
So I started doing these more smaller, intimate events where they were only obligated for the day. I didn't sell them into a bigger program. And I really enjoyed doing those, so much so that I'm going to do a 3rd one in London in January.
Nice.
So that's been really fun. And also adding the caveat, yeah, it has to be fun. Come on a boat ride, go to the spa with me. Let's just have a good time. We hosted, and I'm not at all shaming the event that I hosted. I was so proud of what we did. But it was in a stuffy hotel conference room. The hotel wasn't exactly what we thought it was going to be. They had photoshopped what was the window view. It was supposed to look over Niagara Falls, but actually you saw a bunch of trees when you were in the room. You didn't actually see the falls. That kind of experience. So
isn't that false advertising? I mean,
totally. But the trees had grown since the picture was supposedly originally taken, but it was definitely photoshopped.
Wow.
So I learned a lot from that event, right? And then I was like, okay, what do I want? Because that was in 2019, the pandemic happened. That's when I started doing VIP days. I was thinking, I actually just want to work with one person at a time. And then this year I pivoted again and I was like, well, I would love having small groups, no more than 20 people, doing these fun adventures together. And that's been so fun and like doesn't put pressure on people in a way that they may not be comfortable with this year. Of course, I still sell my VIP days because there are people who want to work privately with me and prefer actually to pay more. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Some people understand the value and want to book me at those higher rates, and they're not interested in being in a room with a bunch of other folks. Like they just have their specific goals and results that they want, and that's what I'm there to help them get.
That's a bad thing. I mean, I don't think that's bad at all, right? If that's what they want to do, and of course they would pay more to have you all to themselves for the day.
Right, and it's just multiple access points, right? And expectations of results that they're going to get from our work together. So, people who work privately with me, they expect to have a 6-figure launch or every audience is different. Results vary, obviously, but that's generally, they're looking to make 10 times of what they invest because my VIP full day is 10K. So they're expecting to make about 100K. So keeping all that in mind, like I reimagined my offers this year, and it was something that you could call an obstacle, but I think it was a fun challenge for me to figure out like what's going to fill me up, give me joy, make me want to continue to do it without putting the pressure on them financially. Because previous years, I had no problem selling a much higher high ticket group program, but this year wasn't like that. So the other thing that I came up against is I talked to a lot of people who did want to hire me privately, but were not comfortable with the price point. And so for the first time, I offered a group program to help craft, market, and fill VIP days. So they didn't have to pay me the 10K per day. They came in for a 3-month program instead. And it was much more affordable. I think it ended up being around $2,500 for 4 months of payments or something like that. So meeting people at different price points was really what this last year has been about. And I'm just grateful that I have the flexibility with my offers that they can come in at whatever price point they're comfortable at.
That's awesome. I love that you can do that. And, you can make that pivot, right? I mean, that's your choice. And the fact that you do to accommodate people, I think is pretty cool. So, and, you say, obstacles, and I always say, or not always, I just started saying this, we come up to these obstacles and they're either stopping stones or stepping stones.
Yes.
Right. So, and I try to make everything a stepping stone. And because if not, then you're stopping. Then you're just, you're, not moving forward. And that's not an option for me. So, so we're almost at the top of the hour and I know you have to go and this sucks. I feel so rushed. Okay. So where can people, no, it's okay. And maybe we'll do this again.
I have kids.
So that
nobody else will pick them up for me.
No, you're fine.
Yes, I'm good for that.
Or we'll do it earlier in the day so that we have more time. But Cookie's going. That. Okay. So where can people find you to get hold of you? And
yeah, I would love to keep the conversation going. So I have a gift for your audience that I'm going to share with everyone. If they go to sagepolaris.com/irisrocks, because she does. So sagepolaris.com/irisrocks, you will be able to grab my triple email open rates. So if you have an email list and you've ghosted them, it's okay. It happens to the best of us, especially depending on when you're listening to this around the holidays and all that. You can go there and you'll get 3 emails that you can copy, paste, and personalize and send to your audience so you can reappear in their inbox. And it also gets you ready and sets you up to make your next offer. The other thing, if you have an established email list, because I know some of you folks are establishing your businesses, this will also help you to remove any unengaged subscribers. You'll send the 3 emails, and if they haven't opened in the last 90 days, you can remove those subscribers because you're paying, if you're on a paid platform for your email, you're paying for them to basically squat on your list.
Right.
So I highly recommend removing them, and you'll watch your open rates go higher, which will help your deliverability. Because if you didn't know, you have a score with your email service provider. Just like everything else, there's an algorithm around it. Yeah. So use those emails, show back up up in your community's inbox if you haven't been writing them lately, or use them to scrub your list, and then you can get better engagement for your emails.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Okay, everybody. So go to sagepolaris.com/irisrocks. That's like, so, thank you. Woo-hoo. I feel like going, yeah. Okay. So the last question that I always ask all my guests, and I feel sad, but we're going to do this again, is what lights your fire?
Oh, what lights my fire? That's such a beautiful question. Honestly, conversations like this light my fire. Like, thank you, first of all, for opening up this circle and allowing me to share with your audience. But also what lights my fire is something I talked about earlier, is helping women have the potential to earn more in their business, but also to truly be able to also carve time out for whatever lights them up. So like right now, one of the things that I'm most excited about, and this is going to be very left field, is that I've learned to be, in the last year, a Muay Thai boxer.
I know. I love that. That's right. I forgot about that.
So those are the things that I didn't even know I had a desire for until I gave myself more space in my life to be like, oh yeah, I can have hobbies. Like, I'm a human who likes things outside of work.
Right.
So, and you know, those, and then also getting my kids involved in it, right? Like, they're learning, and like, I want them to know how to defend themselves. My son, who's going to be 12 soon, like, he has to know what to do if someone tries to punch him on campus. I don't want it to happen, but at the same time, I'd much rather him know what to do.
Right.
So, I would love, and what lights me up like no other, is to see people step into that next version of themselves and to find out who they are beyond just their business. And that's what happens when you carve more time out for yourself.
That is so awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your awesomeness with my audience. And I adore you. I think that you're awesome. And I just love your energy. But folks, again, go to sagepolaris.com/irisrocks. Go grab those free emails. I'm probably going to, because we're actually working on my list, and we'll talk about that like another time, but I had to rebuild my list.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. So, go do what you need to do. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. And if you can hang on for 1 second, I'll come right back. But if you have to go, it's cool. So
cool. Well, I appreciate you, Iris.
I appreciate
everyone.
You. All right. See ya.
Bye.
Everybody, thank you so much for hanging in for, an hour this time. Actually, it was less than an hour. This is a crime to me. We have to have her back on and have her on for like over an hour. But I hope that you found Sage as awesome as I do. I just love her and her energy. She just really is pretty amazing. Don't forget sagepolaris.com/irisrocks. Go grab those emails. Like, share, subscribe. The more download, please download. We're almost up to, I think we're at like 3,900 downloads. I want to hit like 4,000. And I think we may hold a contest. We'll see what happens. But the problem is that now we recorded this in November and it's probably April at this point. So we'll see how many subscribers and downloads we have by then. But I appreciate all of you. Keep the comments coming, keep the emails coming. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.